Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Laura Prada from our Telesur studios in Caracas, Venezuela. We begin with our news and we begin talking about Venezuela because President Nicolás Maduro further emphasized the importance of recovering relations with neighboring Colombia. He said this Wednesday during a meeting with workers from small companies.
Yo estoy dispuesto.
I am ready to reestablish relations at the consular level with the Colombian government in order to have smooth consular relations, and all these issues can be dealt with by consuls. Iván Duque, listen to me. Venezuela has political conflicts with all the countries of Europe, and yet all the countries of Europe have ambassadors in Venezuela. They have consuls, and we have permanent communication with the European foreign ministers, who are 10,000 kilometers from Venezuela, and with Colombia, which we are separated from by just 2,000 kilometers, with 6 million Colombians living in Venezuela. Yet, Iván Duque refuses to have relations with the government that I preside, with legitimate authorities.
And we move on from topic. Peruvian community in Venezuela has rejected statements made by the Peru's interior minister labeling Venezuelan migrants in Peru as criminals, and also the announcement of a migrant hunting special unit. Let's have a look at how this is developing on the following story.
These are the declarations made by Peru's interior minister that sparked controversy.
These foreign criminals, these Venezuelans that enter our country to commit crimes, they only have two options: go to jail or leave the country.
Moran made these statements during a promotional video for the National Police, where he announced the creation of a migrant hunting special unit. The announcements were made while ignoring the fact that crime figures in Peru show that a mere 1.8% are committed by Venezuelans.
The unit will be focused primarily on fighting drug trafficking, kidnapping, violent crimes, and all other crimes that foreign citizens commit.
His statements were immediately condemned by the Inter-American Court of Human Rights. They consider that messages that equate migration with criminality promote the stigmatization of Venezuelan nationals. As such, Moran's words seek to blame crime rates only on migrants. Venezuelan authorities also labeled the declarations as a xenophobic act and a violation against human rights that go against international norms, especially since around 800,000 Venezuelans live in Peru. The declarations raised concerns among the Peruvian community in Venezuela, like, for example, this Peruvian migrant who built his local restaurant and decided to stay in Caracas with his 3 children and 6 grandchildren.
I thank Commander Hugo Chavez because when I came to Venezuela, he welcomed us with open arms and helped us. I've been working here for 13 years. What is happening in Peru is a political strategy, because elections are coming up and that is why they are marginalizing Venezuelans.
In all countries, there are good and bad people. I don't think it's fair to generalize. I don't agree with a statement that calls Venezuelans thieves.
Peruvians are the 3rd biggest migrant colony in Venezuela, where migrants from all continents have historically been welcome.
Since I can remember, there have been foreigners. I have grown up with them, but I don't see the acceptance being the same in other countries.
Venezuelans are no different from anybody. We are the same as Chinese, Africans, Jews, everyone here. Anyone is free to come and do whatever they want.
It's due to these xenophobic attacks and a lack of opportunities that more than 15,000 Venezuelans have decided to return home in a program promoted by the government of President Nicolás Maduro.
And we have some news from the Caribbean, but related to Venezuela also, because Haiti has formally joined the so-called Lima Group, an organization of countries which promotes destabilization of Venezuela and its government. Haiti's entrance to the Lima Group was confirmed by Peru's Foreign Affairs Ministry through a communique, and the Caribbean country joins this bloc of African-American countries which are promoting the destabilization of Venezuela and the request of its Foreign Minister Bishop Edmond. Haiti, which is facing a socio-political crisis internally, has received assistance from the Bolivarian government to tackle the various problems which have arisen in the country as a result of the U.S. meddling and natural disasters. And we change topic. We talk about Colombia because Dario Herrera, another FARC combatant, has been murdered in the state of Antioquia. Herrera was heading to the reincorporation site in Ituango, Antioquia, where he was shot with a firearm, and 5 former FARC combatants have been murdered this month alone. The FARC took to Twitter to condemn the murder. In this case, the FARC party took to Twitter to condemn the murder by stating that there are no means of protection to former FARC combatants that are part of the reintegration process, blaming the government for failing to uphold to its end of the peace deal signed in Havana in 2015. In fact, this former combatant was one of the members of who participated of these deals. And we move on to Chile, where the Public Prosecutor Office has charged police officer Carlos Martínez Ocares with the murder of Colo-Colo football fan Jorge Mora. While a court in Santiago has imposed a travel ban on Martínez Ocares and ordered him to check in a court on a weekly basis, the police officer allegedly ran over the 37-year-old Jorge Mora with its car after a football match on Tuesday night. Relatives of Mora says he was deliberately targeted by the police, who then prevented him from receiving treatment. And also in Chile, the large forest fires have been reported in central Chile. The National Forestry Corporation says that thousands of hectares are burning south of Santiago and other parts of central Chile. Regarding the death of the repression of Jorge, about the police repression during Jorge Mora's vigil, we go to Santiago with our correspondent Alejandro Kirk, who has more details about this case and also about the floods that are and the fires that are consuming Chile. Welcome, Alejandro.
Yes, this is the exact place where last night a soccer fan was rolled over by a truck, a police truck to transport horses. According to the videos that we have seen, the incident was totally uncalled for. The truck went over at high speed against demonstrators. Actually, there were no demonstrators. They were coming out of a soccer game between this club, Colo-Colo, the most popular club in Chile, against the Palestinian club, the Palestinian Community Club, part of the professional league here in Chile. They were coming out and they were attacked by the police with tear gas, with water, the usual thing. But then this truck came from nowhere and rolled over the people and killed this man. His name is Jorge Mora. And he was, actually he died a few minutes later at the hospital. The people made a makeshift memorial here to remember this guy who is going to be buried tomorrow or the day after, on Friday. What did the police do today? There was a fire here. There was actually another place, a commercial place was burned. But what did the police do? They came over and destroyed the memorial, which is what they always do. They did the same thing with Mauricio Fredes, another, this time a demonstrator who died escaping from the water cannon at Plaza Dignidad, the former Plaza Italia, called now Dignity Square. So in other places of this city, not far away from here, metro stations are being burned. There are riots all over the place because this is a very, you know, the followers of Colo-Colo, you can count by the millions, and there is rage amongst them, and they are promising that there will be no more soccer games until the person who did this gets to jail. But the judiciary did the opposite. A judge considered that the guilty, those who were guilty were the soccer fans, she says that they were usually outlaws, that they were under the influence of alcohol, and he set the policeman free. So there is more riots, there is more violence to come because of this decision by this judge and because of this killing, which was totally, I repeat, uncalled for, and it's part of the wave of repression that Chile is living since October 18th.
Thank you, Alejandro. That was Alejandro Kirk, straight from Chile. And like this, we go for a first break. Remember, follow us on Twitter at Teleser English and on my account at Laura P. Teleser. We'll be right back.
We seek to totally abolish the existing capitalist system so that we can have true democracy.
It's really capitalism with a safety net.
Who's moving the chessmen? What interests motivate the actors behind each event? The board is deployed there. Critical move. Investigates every event from Monday to Friday. Only on Telesur. Innovation, science, the technological breakthrough and its influence in society.
Viajeros del saber, el futuro está aquí.
Atomen. Monday, only on Telesur.
We are back with our news. A new migrant refugee caravan will be setting off from El Salvador with close to 8,000 people trying to reach United States. It is expected that the caravan will arrive to Mexico's southern border by this weekend. Activists and human rights defenders said that the National Migration Institute's strategy to stop the migrant flow violates human rights. He also said that local political leaders recommended that migrants organize in order to defend their human rights collectively. And Mexico deported scores of Central American migrants who were arrested after hundreds forced their way through a Mexican police blockade and headed for the United States. Around 500 men, women and children, part of the caravan of roughly 5,000, mainly Honduran who have been trekking toward the United States for weeks, scrambled over a rusted metal fence and surged into a concrete riverbed toward San Diego on Sunday. Mexico's National Institute of Migration Commissioner Gerardo Garcia confirmed the arrest of 98 persons on his country's side, saying there were instigators in the migrant caravan pushing people to illegally cross the border. We change topic. We talk now about the so-called deal of the century. Protests against Trump's so-called Middle East peace plan have been ongoing across the occupied Palestinian territories. On Wednesday, demonstrators gathered in Al-Keba, north of the Jordan Valley. They expressed their anger at the United States and Israel for their continued attempts at removing them from their lands. Demonstrations are expected to continue throughout the week. Residents in the Gaza Strip have also spoken out against United States and Israel.
We call on the Palestinian factions to unite to face this alleged deal of the century. We as Palestinians absolutely reject it, in all its details, decisions and plans.
We do not recognize the deal of the century, as well as we do not recognize the US nor Israel. Every person decides his fate, and we, as Palestinians, are a united people. The US cannot discuss this deal of shame. We are against this deal.
Meanwhile, in Lebanon, Palestinian refugees burned down the flags of United States and Israel in protest to Trump's plan. Several organizations and movements, including the Arab League, strongly condemn U.S.-Israel, saying their work lacks all principles required to achieve peace. In Turkey, a group of protesters also gathered in front of U.S. consulate in Istanbul to reject this attack on Palestinian sovereignty.
What they call the deal of the century will supposedly bring peace to the Middle East, but we will see an insurgency of the century against this agreement, which support and legitimize Israel's century of occupation. We will make efforts in Turkey to increase this insurgency. Zionist Israel should pay the price for the war crimes it has committed internationally. Sanctions must be imposed against Zionist Israel, and we defend the need of a boycott of Zionist Israel in every sector: economic, military, diplomatic, cultural.
Meanwhile, South Africa's governing party, the African National Congress, said any plan that does not have the input of Palestinians cannot bring peace to the Middle East. A statement by the former Liberation Movement said the plan announced by Trump has no legitimacy and will only increase tensions in the region. The African National Congress has also reiterated its unequivocal support for the Palestinian people's struggle for freedom and self-determination. It added that in the protest against Israeli atrocities, the party's decision to downgrade the country's embassy in Tel Aviv to a liaison office will remain in place. And people in Yemen also joined the growing criticism of Trump's Middle East proposal.
The Republic of Yemen condemns yesterday's show on the deal of the century, and the statement of the Yemeni Foreign Ministry was very clear. And I repeat it again. Anything that detracts from the rights of the Palestinian people, we reject it and condemn it, as a Yemeni people who is fighting with Palestinian people.
Time for a second and very short break. Just stay tuned with us.
Our actions have an impact on the environment. It's our responsibility to change for the sake of our planet. Let's be part of this transition. Watch, preserve, and protect your Earth. Green Zone. Wednesdays, only on Telesur. A review of the world news that investigates, incites analysis, and induces criticism, because every event has a context.
Pusimos el punto en la I.
Dot in the I. Saturdays, only on Telesur.
We are back with our news. The United States Army recognized the military status of the aircraft damaged in Afghanistan and shot down by the Taliban. The head of United States intelligence for Iraq, Iran, and Afghanistan, Michael D'Andrea, was on board and was killed. The U.S. Army recognized that the plane in which D'Andrea was flying crashed this Monday on central Ghazni. D'Andrea was a prominent figure in the United States Central Intelligence Agency and is presumed to have been part of the operation in which Iranian General Qasem Soleimani was assassinated. The spokesman for the U.S. forces in Afghanistan, Sonny Leggett, said that the attack continues under investigation. And a group of people have protested outside the United Arab Emirates embassy in Sudan against the alleged trafficking of local men who have been recruited to join the militias of renegade Libyan General Khalifa Haftar. Demonstrators are accusing a company from the United Arab Emirates of being involved in the scheme, and this after United Nations revealed that cargo and freight company Black Shield was colluding with a Sudanese general to recruit poor young men under the guise of offering them jobs as security guards in the Middle East. Meanwhile, Haftar's so-called Libyan National Army is preparing to launch a major offensive against forces loyal to United Nations recognized Government of National Accord. LNA field commanders say they are waiting for senior officials to give the order for forces to advance towards the west to take over towns currently under the control of the Government of National Accord. On Sunday, the Government of National Accord accused Haftar of violating the ceasefire signed in Moscow 2 weeks ago.
We are awaiting the instructions of the General Command so we can approach this corrupt group of Syrians who deal with artillery, rat artillery. We are monitoring them and we know their locations and how they move and work. Mercenaries from the Chadian Justice and Equality Movement are also fighting alongside them. But we, God willing, we monitor all their movements. And very soon any orders or instructions issued by the General Command, they will be eliminated as soon as possible. God willing.
And the National Union of Metal Workers of South Africa, NUMSA, have appealed to the government to come to the aid struggling electronics manufacturer in the Eastern Cape province. The union says failure by the government will not only affect the workers and their families, but will have an impact on the entire economy of the region. The company that launched in 2018 as part of efforts to improve the fortunes of one of the country's economically disadvantaged region is facing liquidation after it failed to repay a $20 million loan obtained from a local bank. Chinese authorities say that just under 6,000 confirmed cases of pneumonia caused by the novel coronavirus have been reported as of Wednesday, with the death toll rising to 132. From Beijing, our correspondent Iranzi Peraza has the details and update. Welcome, Iranzi.
Saludos, colega. Un placer saludarte. Gracias por el contacto.
Greetings. Chinese experts said the new coronavirus with pneumonia-like symptoms that is behind the ongoing outbreak has caused the death of at least 132 people and has sickened about 6,000 others. Scientists expect the outbreak will react its peak over the next 10 days. And after that, we will see a drop in both the mortality rate and the number of infected people. Scientists also said that it's crucial to keep in place the strict measures that Chinese government has imposed to control the spread of the virus. Prevention and early detection remain the best way to slow down the outbreak, as there is not vaccine or treatment against the deadly disease. Chinese authorities maintain the strict lockdown on the city of Wuhan, the epicenter of the outbreak, and others down in the Hubei province. But aid, including food and medical supplies, and about 6,000 health professionals have also been sent to the region to help treating the thousands of patients. Additionally, the first of the 2 new hospitals especially built to counter the outbreak is set to open on Monday. It will have the capacity to house and treat up to 1,500 patients.
Thank you, Iramsi. Meanwhile, the World Health Organization said it will consider whether to declare the Wuhan coronavirus as a global health emergency following the sharp increase in cases in China.
The continued increase in cases and the evidence of human-to-human transmission outside China are, of course, both deeply concerning, although the numbers outside China are still relatively small. They hold the potential for a much larger outbreak. I have, therefore, decided to reconvene the International Health Regulations Emergency Committee on Novel Coronavirus 2019 to advise me on whether the outbreak represents a public health emergency of international concern, and to seek their recommendations on how best to protect people all over the world.
During our trip to China, we were very impressed with the level of engagement of the Chinese government at all levels. Personally, I think myself and the Director General have never seen the scale, commitment of an epidemic response at this level, in terms of all of government involvement across all of the different arms of government, with tremendous support being poured into Wuhan and Hubei from the central government, with a highly organised emergency management structure.
And like this, we come to the end of News Brief. Remember to stay with us with Telesur, always connecting. Our global pause until next time. Thank you for watching.